Jeremy Leveille and Pete Tarrier talking Division I basketball season in review as the season just ended. About 20 minutes ago, Merrimack Tomahawks win it 65-56 over Manchester Central. A great championship game. These clearly the two best teams in the state, and the best team won it.
Yeah, I think Merrimack was the best team, playing the best at the end of the year, and they put it all together. It took them a while to put it all together because of the injuries and that stuff that beset them earlier this year, but they were clicking on all cylinders down the stretch, and they had some fortune along the way. I mean, when you look at championship runs, you're going to have to get some breaks going your way, and obviously Salem getting knocked off by Dover in the first round, that gave them, no disrespect to Dover, but gave them an easier path to the semifinals, and then took care of business against Spalding and did what they had to do against Central today, and they're champs.
Yeah, Central, they're a good team, and obviously they beat Trinity. That double overtime game was an unbelievable semifinal game. They deserved to be here. They put up a great fight, but it seemed like in the beginning of the game, the Jenner brothers were able to, get enough points, give them a little bit of a lead. It was back and forth, and then, Dimitri Flores kind of took over in the second half there, had some and ones, and just was able to run the point without turning the ball over, get everybody involved, and had a couple big threes in that fourth quarter, give them the 11-point lead.
Yeah, I mean, he stepped up big when he needed to. I had said to the gentleman I was watching the game with, and I said, man, he's got a quiet 18 points at the time. And he said, you know what, that is pretty quiet. And then he started to make some noise. I think he hit a three right after I said that, and that opened up, gave him a little breathing room. I also thought Jeff Gianelli did a tremendous job. Eric Gendron started off with a great hot start. Tyler Gendron was relatively quiet offensively, but I thought he did a good job defensively. And I just thought they just had too many weapons for Manchester Central to be able to handle. Central's a team that they spread it around. They got a bunch of different guys that can hurt you, but I just thought Merrimack had more quality depth in this game, and that's why they won.
Yeah, Central, they, were led offensively by Gabe LeCount, Troy Pelletier, and Troy Pelletier came on more strong in the second half, hit a bunch of shots, but it seemed like, by the time he really got going, they were already in too big of a hole to come back from. Central, though, they had a great season. They were picked to be one of the top teams, and they were all year, and, they beat Trinity in that double overtime game. I mean, I think that game is probably the one that most people are going to remember when they look back at this Division I season.
Yeah, that was a tremendous game. I didn't want it to end. I mean, it just kept going. There was so many different twists and turns in that game. You thought one team had it won, the other team would come back. That was a classic. I think either one of those two teams, obviously could have been there. That's what happens when you go double overtime. So, for Trinity to lose that game, that's a tough one. But, I thought that they could have given Merrimack a game today as well. But I think Merrimack in the end was just too strong. They were playing too well down the stretch, and they did what they had to do.
Yeah, a lot of people were saying Trinity was the team to beat going to the tournament. They were the number one seed, only lost 2 games all season long, and I think that it's not like they didn't do anything wrong. It's just that Central took them to double overtime and they beat them. I mean, it was a great game. I think Trinity still had a very good season. They have some seniors that they're going to miss. They're going to be good next year again. Year in, year out, Trinity's up there in Division I, but they just were beat by a Central team that seemed like just had Trinity had the size, but Central had the toughness. They were just scrappy, and they got a win in that game. But looking and outside those 3 teams, Spalding also a great story, making it to the Final Four, going to National North, beating them in overtime in the quarterfinals after the bus crash they had. Showing some resolve and really gutsy win for Spalding. Also after winning on a buzzer beater in the first round too.
Yeah, I saw a bunch of the kids from the Spalding team today. They were here at the game, and I made a point to say congratulations, great season. I thought that was a nice story, not just because of the bus accident, but just because of Spalding, who they are. It's kind of the little school that could, and they've made their appearances here in this Final Four, and they've showed that they're a good program, and I think they'll be back next year, and they'll be a factor in this league. As far as some of the other teams, I mean, National North, Salem, you forget about Salem, how much of a tremendous year. They were the number 2 seed. They get knocked off by Dover, and people kind of forget about what a good season that they had as well.
Yeah, I mean, they had a great season, and, going into the tournament, people were talking about, Johnny Clayton and Ben Slepian as both possible Player of the Year candidates from the same team. It's, which one was better for their team? You can't have, two players on All-State, are they both first-team All-State players? I think that, would change based on, them losing the first round at Dover, but, Dover, that was a big upset. I mean, Coach McLaughlin, though, did a great job with Salem all year long. But I think the game that most people are going to be the most surprised about, I think the most memorable game of this year is the Trinity Central semifinal game. The most surprising game, though, would be the Dover upset over Salem in the first round.
Yeah, you can't argue that. I mean, I remember when that news broke. That's a night where there's 8 games going on at one night, so you can be at one game. But luckily, with the technology we have now, with Twitter and people with text messaging and things like that, and cell phones, you can figure out what's going on pretty quickly. And when that first score came across, I think John Doyle tweeted it from Fosters.com, and I know I looked at it and said, is that score inverse? Does he have that wrong? The NHIA is known for sometimes putting up the wrong score, saying the wrong team won. I was thinking that was a mistake, or the auto text there. You're starting to text something and it assumes what you're going to say. Sometimes you send something out you didn't mean to say. I thought that was the case, so that was a big time shocker for me. And I'll agree with you, the best game of the year. And I saw quite a few good games. That regular season game between Trinity and Central was tremendous. That one was one for the ages for sure. The semifinal.
Yeah, Trinity and Salem, also a very good regular season game as well. One of the best regular season games I saw all year. And another upset in the first round, Memorial beating Pinkerton. And we talked about maybe that would be an upset going into the tournament. And, I said that Memorial, I think we agreed that of any double-digit seed, Memorial was the most dangerous. And they proved it going to Pinkerton, a Pinkerton team that had just beaten Trinity at the end of the regular season. And, got to give credit to Coach Fitzpatrick, the job that he did with such a young team. They had no starters returning to this year's team. And I think only like 2 seniors on the team. And they beat Pinkerton with all those seniors that they have. So, Memorial's going to be a very good team next year, and you got to give them a lot of credit for the year they had.
Yeah, they're young. I mean, they'll be back. They're always in the mix. I mean, Fitzpatrick's a great coach. That's a really good program. You mentioned the Pinkerton thing. I ran into Pete Rosinski in the hallway at Lundholm Gym on Tuesday night, whenever the semifinals were, and he said, "Hey, I saw you on Jeremy's website predicting you guys both saying that we were going to lose that game. Well, what do you know? We did lose the game." I
was also predicting they would make it here, though. So
that's true.
Yeah,
that's true. But I'd say there might be an upset.
I said it. Yeah,
you did predict them to be here, and I got that one right. I'll pat myself on the back over here. But I did learn something, and I bet you already know this. Rosinski's got a son who's going to be a freshman next year.
Yes, I did know that.
Almost as, I'm sure you did. You probably have him ranked already. But he's almost as tall as Coach Rosinski. So this kid, hopefully he's going to be a force next year for Pinkerton. Might even be on varsity. Who knows?
Yeah, Luke Rosinski, and yeah, he repeated 8th grade. So you're seeing this a lot now. Not to get off on a tangent about all the players transferring to different schools, and players repeating 8th grade and reclassifying and everything, but yeah, he's one of those players. And Pinkerton, they lose a lot of seniors. They only got 1 starter coming back. But looking back at the season, though, a lot of people are going to think about the parity, because you had a lot of tiebreakers. You had a 4-way tie for the number 2 seed. You had all those teams in that 7, 8, 9 spot. You really had 10, 11, 12 teams all season long battling it out for home court advantage, home seeds, top 8 seeds. There was a lot of parity looking back at the season.
Yeah, and I think that's what's great about this state and Division I in particular. I think there was, like we talked about, a 7 seed won the championship. This isn't a real 7 seed that won. We know why they were seeded 7s, because of the injuries that Merrimack had, most notably Dimitri Flores missing more than half the season, more than half the regular season. So going into the tournament, you knew that there was a number of teams that could step up and win, and you got a 4 and a 7 in the championship game. a lot of tournaments are chalk. You see 1 and 2, that's the teams that are in it. So it's kind of nice to see a surprise, see some of these lower seeded teams as the Merrimack Tomahawks, the champs, come out behind us. It's kind of nice to see something like that happen. I like that.
Near upsets and upsets. I mean, you also had Exeter. I mean, they almost beat Trinity in the first round. So a 16 almost beating a 1. You had a 15 beating a 2. You also had Nashua North, the number 3 seed in the first round. They almost lost to Londonderry, a Londonderry team that was, very much better than their record indicated. So all the way through 1 through 16, you had very good teams all the way through.
Yeah, I mean, the teams that made the playoffs certainly took advantage of it and played their hearts out. And, that's what high school basketball should be all about. And I'd rather see competitive games, even those 1 versus 16 type games, 15-2. I'd rather see competitive games. It just makes it more exciting than seeing a 40-point blowout win. We saw what happened in Division II with Portsmouth just dominating Bedford today. I'm glad that we had a competitive game in this one, at least as long as it was competitive, because it was competitive most of the game until Merrimack opened it up at the end.
Yeah, I mean, before the season started, we were talking about Dimitri Flores, because he was coming back to Merrimack after initially going to Kimball Union Academy. Then during the season, he was the story because of the injury to his wrist and had to miss most of the season. And at the end of the season, he's the story again, leading this Tomahawks team to the championship. Now people are going to be wondering, is he going to go back to a different prep school now, or is he going to stay at Merrimack for his senior year? We'll have to see what happens. But with him and, Eric Gendry coming back, some of these other guys coming back, Merrimack should be back there again as well next season.
Yeah, it's a very strong program, and Tim Goodrich is a great coach. If Dimitri goes, they'll have to obviously fill those big shoes. They're losing Tyler Jenner and Gianelli, Peabody. They're losing a lot of seniors as well. But they've got some guys that can play, that are, working at the end of the bench right now. They'll step up. Their JV team is pretty good as well. So I think Merrimack's going to be just fine.
Here's a tough question. Who would be the player of the year in Division I boys basketball? See, Division II, we didn't really have much of a debate. It was Kamal Walker, from Portsmouth. But in Division I, if Dimitri's healthy all year, it's probably him. Ryan Gauthier, if he was suspended for a few games, maybe he's in the discussion. Those Salem guys, which one would even be the candidate, between Klecken and Slepian. But then you also have the fact that they got eliminated in the first round of the playoffs. Chris Light from Pinkerton, a lot of people were talking about him going to the tournament. His team got bounced in the first round. I don't think there's one clear-cut guy. Maybe Troy Pelletier from Manchester Central. He was good all year for Central, led them to the championship game, had 26 in that double overtime win over Trinity. But there's a few guys, but by no means is a slam dunk for who it's going to be.
Well, and there's also a few different Player of the Year awards. I mean, if me and you were given an award, it's probably different than the Coach's Award, which is kind of like Cy Young and MVP in Major League Baseball. It's a regular season award, and the coaches, have their vote and their say, and I think they look at things a little bit differently than I do. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's just their opinion.
My opinion is you wait until after the tournament's over. So you take into account what performance during the tournament as well. I don't know if you agree with that.
I totally agree. Really? That's your opinion? I never heard that.
Oh, yeah. It's not like I said that in 50 different articles already.
No, look, I agree. I mean, why not wait until the end of the season? So, let them have their award. Let us have our award as a media. You should do an NH Notebook, a New Hampshire Notebook Player of the Year.
I released my girls basketball All-State and Player of the Year awards actually this morning. So, and the boys ones will probably post in the next couple days.
It's all good discussion. Helps people like me with a talk show. It keeps the phones ringing and keeps people going and people making little comments on the internet on your website or whatever. But I think Dimitri Flores is the Player of the Year when you take everything into consideration. Despite the fact that he missed 10 games this season, he's still the Player of the Year.
So I'm going to let it be a cliffhanger that people will check the site and find out who I think the player of the year will be in the next few days. Because right now, I'll have to go back and I'll have to think it over. I'll have to look back on the season and maybe review some tape or something. It's too tough to tell. There's not, like I said, not really one guy. I think you say Dimitri Flores, he missed a lot of the season, and there's some other guys that had great regular seasons. The teams came up a little short. Aaron Martin from West had a great season, but his team, kind of faltered as the season went along. You had a lot of guys down there, like we mentioned, the Salem guys, and Ryan Gauthier, Chris Light, Dominic Parody from Spalding is another candidate, leading his team to the semifinals as well, making 12 free throws in that quarterfinal game over North. There's a few candidates, but like I said, not one slam dunk guy.
Well, 2 weeks ago, if you would have asked me that question, I would have said it's either Ryan Gauthier or Ben Slepian. Those guys were battling it out for Player of the Year. Well, Slepian's team got knocked out in the first round. Gauthier played probably one of his worst games of the year in the biggest game of the year for his team, so he got hurt. There was also the suspension with him, although I don't hold that against him personally. I don't really know what happened. I don't really care, to be honest with you. He was suspended. He missed 4 games. You know what? He was a tremendous player this year. So I just base it on what I see on the court, what I see these guys do. And to me, Dimitri Flores, you take him away. Is it a Player of the Year? Is it MVP? What is it? If it's MVP, most important to his team, it's Dimitri Flores, because you saw what happened when he wasn't playing. They were barely over 500. I think they were 6-4 without him. So you know what? He's the Player of the Year, in my opinion.
So Pete Tarrier, Jeremy Leveille, that's our Division I boys basketball season review. Congratulations to the Merrimack Tomahawks on winning the championship. Before we go, Pete, I'll let you plug your radio show one last time here before we head home from UNH here.
Well, I appreciate, first of all, you let me do these. I mean, I've got a lot of people coming up to me saying they know who I am now because of these little after the game shoots, and I appreciate it, first of all. But yeah, we got actually a couple more weeks on the program. Saturday morning, 7 to 9, WGIR AM 610 in the Manchester area. If you're on the seacoast, crystal clear FM 96.7, The Wave. Thanks a lot, guys. I hope you listen.
I don't know what I'm going to do with myself now that basketball season's over. I'll just have to, review some tape or something. People will be sending me game tapes from over the course of the season. I'll just be watching those, I guess, to reminisce. But that's it for our season review. We'll see you next year in the 2012 to 2013. Hopefully it's as good as this one was in Division I, in all 4 divisions here in the NHIA. For the New Hampshire Notebook, NHNotebook.com, I'm Jeremy Leveille.